Hello, I'm Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is Season 7, Episode 9 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast, as I flub that. It's slated to come out on 5/27/2024, so the last episode of May. And it's also Memorial Day in the U.S., so happy Memorial Day to anyone that is out there. And, hope that you have a great Memorial Day weekend. And let's just get right into it. So we're going to talk about a bunch of different stuff like ads and AI and stuff like that. But I made a Merlot 2 years ago almost. It's 14.5% ABV. I think I put 14% ABV on the thing. But it's a Merlot I made from concentrate. It was a little... So I think we've done this one on the podcast before. Mm-hmm. And it was a little astringent the first time that we had it, if I remember correctly. So in 2022, if you go back and find that episode, you'll be able to hear our thoughts on it. But it was made in or bottled in November of 2022, which means I made it somewhere around September, October, maybe August of 2022. And so now we're just going to taste it and see what an almost 2-year-old Merlot is like.
Yeah. It's not too bad. I mean, it's not the best Merlot I've ever had. Well, it's like some of the meads we make sometimes are like, I think, very much rival commercial quality. But like this is still wet. It's like juicy, which is good. It's not overly sweet, but I wouldn't call it dry either.
Right.
It's got a good mouthfeel. The acidity, I think, balances really well with the tannins. It's very, inoffensive is maybe the best way to say it. There's nothing wrong with it at all. There's also, maybe not anything amazing about it.
Yeah,
but
it's kind of just, if you paid $5 for this, for a bottle of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like a $10 bottle.
Like a $10 bottle?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's normally about what I pay for a bottle of Merlot.
Yeah, if I was walking through the Costco and I saw, oh look, Kirkland Signature Merlot, and grab this and this is what I got. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge Merlot person. I probably wouldn't go buy a second bottle. But there's nothing. Maybe that's actually the better way to say it. I'm not a Merlot type of person. I'm not much of a wine person overall. I'll do some whites maybe. I'll do some of the sweeter ones. So we'll get a Moscato every now and then if we want a dessert wine or something like that. But I don't do a Sauvignon or any of that stuff. Yeah. You'll never see a Cabernet in my house type of deal. But this is a completely inoffensive wine to me. I would drink this as opposed to this is something I would only use for cooking type of deal.
So I think if I was going to improve on this, now that I know that it's matured and it's kind of good, and this is the last bottle that I have of it, so I'll probably try to make something like this again. I normally make these as spiced wines, and they're a little bit sweeter than this because this is 14%, but it's dry. I think it's it came out as 0.01 or something like that for its final ABV. So the thing that I think I would do is I would add maybe some other flavorants to it to try to give it some things like I do with meads. So maybe try to pull out some of the more fruity aspects of it, some of the more grapey tones, like some of that stone fruit, some of that chocolatey kind of flavor that you can kind of get with this. The thing about this, while it's fine, I agree with you, it's just kind of a middle of the road. It's just the base for something. As a base, I think it's not bad.
No, it's certainly not. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think some warmer spices would go really well with this. This would be a really good base for your Christmas blend. I also
this
think
is the base for my Christmas blend.
Yeah. So, it would work really well for that, as we know, because I think we've reviewed the Christmas blend on the podcast before, and that's very good. I'd almost say that, this could also just do for, a real hard oaking. I don't know if you put oak in this originally.
No, this was just for me. This was an experiment for me just to see what it's like, just by itself, just plain.
Yeah, I mean, next time you make this, throw some oak chips in. I think your final product will really sing. Because the only thing I think really holding this wine back is a lack of like secondary and tertiary characteristics.
Yeah, and you get those either from oak or adjunct,
Hmm.
flavorants into it. Yeah, I agree. And it's like really clear and nice. It is at first when it first came out of the bottle, it had a little bit of a musty. Trying to think of what I would call it, almost yeasty quality to it. It like when the first sip, but now that it's set out and it's aired out a little bit, it is like all that's gone, and that's just like probably a little bit of off gas that was sitting on the top.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So if you get a winemaker's Merlot kit, and you want to try to make your own Merlot, you could have similar qualities if you use a Tosna 3.0 schedule. And I don't know that it's cheaper than buying what you can at the grocery store, but you could definitely make it better than what you can buy at the grocery store.
Yeah, which I think is always my argument for home brewing. It is hard to battle the economy of scale when it comes to like commercial alcohol. But you can, for close to the same price, make something that's exactly what you want.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, I mean there's stuff that we've made for this podcast that I've liked more than anything I've ever drank that came out of a commercial bottle, and it's not necessarily that we had a better technique or we had better ingredients or anything like that. It's when you have 100% control. It's like cooking.
Yep.
You know, like when you learn how to make a dish exactly how you like it. Sure, you can go to a restaurant and it's still really good at a restaurant, but you can make it exactly how you like it at home.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, and that's basically what I've done with this over the years. Is this started out as I want to make a wine that is exactly what I want,
Hmm.
and I'm going to tell you what my idea is for this. I'm going to take this like kind of wine base,
Hmm.
and I'm going to make a bourbon barrel coffee tincture, and then add that to the wine,
Okay.
and then fortify it with that vodka, rum, or whiskey.
Hmm.
And I haven't decided which liquor I'm going to use, but I'm basically going to make a tinctured liquor and then put that in the wine to bring out those notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, it should be kind of fun. And then if that doesn't work, because I'll probably make 2.5 gallons. I'm also going to make one that's just putting the ingredients in the wine and
Hmm.
seeing if that brings out
Okay.
those notes into it. So should be kind of fun. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to be fun, but we'll see. That's something I'm probably going to do over the summer. So let's see. Let's talk a little bit about ads in Windows Start menu. Um, so back in Windows 95,
Hmm.
there were little ads for things in the Windows, start menu, but most of those things were things like Microsoft products or something like
Yeah.
that. There's also always been some sort of in Windows 10 and Windows 11 advertisement for like a game like Candy Crush or something like that.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is like full on Google ad network inserted into the start menu. I know that the thing that they talk about in the article that I linked is um, putting, Xbox cloud gaming, into the
Hmm.
start menu and like being able to advertise that and kind of advertising the games. But in some other places, they've talked about Microsoft's strategy of pulling your ad profile and being able to display relevant ads so that they can charge people for advertising dollars.
Yeah.
Now, I've got two thoughts on this, but before I go to my thoughts, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are is I'm getting so tired of people trying to force ads into my life. I'm I'm almost at a point that if my operating system itself is going to have ads, I'm going to have two computers. One that's my main just get work done computer, which will run some distro of Linux, and then a purely just for gaming computer that I might not even allow on the network except to maybe get the like Steam Authenticator or something. Because I don't play multiplayer games anyway, you know?
Yep.
It's like, I'm just so sick of it. Like, there is something to be said about you are consuming a majority free product and there are ads.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say majority free is I know like when we think about ads originally, you're talking about things like TV, newspaper. Like, you paid for that newspaper.
Yeah.
You know, and they put some ads in it, but the newspaper was very cheap. It was
Yep.
cheaper. You bought it for less than what it cost to produce it.
Right.
And for TV, yeah, you paid a cable package, but that mostly went to the cable companies that didn't go to individual studios as much. So the studios had to make some money. You know, not so much the case for the big names like the Fox and things like that. But if you were on like the Discovery Channel when Discovery was new, or like PBS, those things were very cheap and they didn't have huge budgets. If I'm paying for an operating system, that's a couple $100. Keep ads out of it. And I read somewhere that like, oh, well, if you buy the highest level, you know, ultimate version, you can turn the ads off. Not that it doesn't come without ads. You just have the ability to go turn it off. It doesn't do it by default.
And that's only going to be like for enterprise customers generally.
So it's like, yeah, I'm going to pay $300 or something for this Prime special version of the OS, and I still have to go in and turn the ads off myself? Why?
Yeah.
What? It really makes me wonder how, like, who are the other people in the world? And I don't mean this in any sort of derogatory way. I'm just talking straight facts. The only way this can be getting this bad, where like everything wants to have ads in it, is if the people running the advertisements are ultimately making more money.
Yeah.
So like, I've never met someone, or at least no one that's disclosed it to me, that any of this ad stuff has ever worked. I've never clicked on an ad and bought a product online. Ever. I've never watched a commercial in my adult life and been like, I need that. You know? But they have to be there. They have to be enough of them that this is a profitable avenue. And I just want to meet those people. And again, in no negative way, I just want to understand. If I clicked the start menu, because I'm trying to get to my settings, and it showed me an ad, how'd they win me over? Like, what was that ad? Who saw that? What were they being advertised? Because I never click on any ads, my advertisements are always just stupid crap I don't care
Yep.
about. But maybe there's someone somewhere who's like, look, every ad slaps. I opened that ad up. It showed me a thing. It was exactly what I wanted. So I clicked it and bought it. You know, like, I'm just trying to understand the process, how it's gotten this bad.
Well, okay. So I have actually seen ads. Like, normally it's something like, hey, this is on like a YouTube or something like that. It's not the thing that Google inserted because I don't see those ads. I,
Yeah.
you know, pay for YouTube Red, which I'm totally willing to do. Right. The moment that Google starts serving me ads and I'm still paying for that, I will quit paying for YouTube Red.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
But, you know, the creator shows an ad and I'm like, okay, that's relevant to something that they're doing right now. And I like that you know, this was like a sponsor spot. You showed me why this was like kind of neat. I go look it up and I'm like, yeah, I'll buy that. Like, that's the thing that I'll buy. Generally, it's like something gaming related or something like that, right? Sometimes it's like tech hardware stuff. But I agree with you. Like, I've never sat down and watched a Mucilex commercial and been like, man, I didn't realize that I needed Mucilex in my life. I need some Mucilex. That'll be really great, you know? So I think there definitely are people. So advertising has to work. There are people who are not, they are more influenced. They don't have as much willpower and they will buy stuff. And then we know how statistics can be conflated
Mm-hmm.
to be able to say, well, this is a successful ad campaign, or this is a successful, distribution campaign, or something like that. When most people, you're only reaching like 10%. You think about what we do at work, like when we reach out to the populace
Yeah.
of people, and they're like, hey, give us some feedback, and you give them you get feedback from like 10% of people, and then we call it a successful thing. This is the same sort of thing that happens here. The marketing research companies have gone in and they're saying, well, we're only reaching this many people, but of that many people, 100% of them bought stuff, or 100% of them like re-engaged with something, or they did this.
Yeah.
And since we can see what their mouse pointer hovered over this, could have been they bumped the mouse and it just slid over to it, and it just was like hovering there for 3 hours because they walked away from their computer. But they're going to be like 2% of people hovered over this ad for 3 hours, but they didn't buy. How do we get them to buy? If we do an auto add to cart feature, will that get them to buy? They come up with that stuff.
I understand that part of the user experience side, right? Like, you can argue that. I'm more wondering, like, what are these bottom lines looking like?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not, the bottom line is not that it's getting added to. They're saying you made $1 million, and 10% of that came from this ad right here. So it's worth it because you only paid, $100.
Well, yeah, though that makes sense to the advertising firm. Like, I understand advertisers are obviously making money. They have to have the ads at all. I'm taking it one step further. How much is Microsoft getting paid? That their bottom line, it makes sense to do this. Because think about it. It's a $300 operating system or whatever like that. They got to make a pretty significant amount of money off of everyone else to make up for the people who are going to see this and say, I guess I'm not getting Windows 11. Right? Because even if you just took me, right? And I say, I'm not going to get Windows 11. I'm not going to do this ad stuff. I'll switch over to another OS. That's $300 gone. How much are they getting paid that's worth it? So, like, if you lose 1% of your customers, you got to make up that money in the ads. What's that number? The nerd in me is thinking, what's this break-even point?
Yeah.
Like,
but that, according to some of the things that I've seen, they're making like triple and quadruple profit on top of whatever they would like drive away from the ad revenue, because they're getting so much right now. And that's like in Google and stuff like that. That's why this is so lucrative this looks so lucrative to like places like Microsoft and stuff like that. Because right now they're not doing that. What they're doing right now is they're just saying, hey, subscribe to Game Pass. Well, that's relevant to gamers. If most gamers are going to be on, Windows, and if their mouse hovered over that, and then like maybe they were going to subscribe to Game Pass anyways, but Microsoft doesn't know what your intention is. They just know what your actions were on the thing that they're recording off of your screen. So if that's happening, then they're going to, from their analytics, say they hovered over it, or maybe even they clicked it just so they got the shortcut to open, and then they subscribed to Game Pass, or they resubscribed after they had not been subscribed for a while. They're going to say that drove the sale, and that's how they, mark success. They're not going to look at any other thing, and they're going to conflate it that way.
Which, look, this will tell you what type of person I am. I did get that once. I got an advertisement for Game Pass in my Windows 10, and I opened it up and I saw, oh, Game Pass. I didn't know you automatically got that with Windows. That's cool. And I clicked on it, and then it was like install. I was like, what? No. And then I went in and found the thing that gave me the ad, and I uninstalled it. I was like, no. It was fine when I thought it was, oh, there's a thing installed on my computer. I didn't know it installed on it. But you're prompting me to install your own applications? No, I have what I want. Get off of here.
Get away. And I mean, I'm saying this as a Game Pass subscriber, but I subscribe because I sometimes want to play games that come out.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I mean, I've got no problem with Game Pass. It's, quite frankly, an amazing service. Yeah. I was just upset at Windows that it was, like, suggesting me to install an app.
Right.
I was like, no, I will install on my computer what I want to install on my computer. But I guess that's part of the problem, I think. I was reading some very sad statistics on tech literacy in kind of new college, end
Mm-hmm.
of high school kind of people, and like where are they compared to previous generations? And this is kind of one of that first generation we've seen go backwards
Right.
in terms of true tech literacy. And that's not anything against those younger people. They know how to use the technology that they need to use. So it's not like a saying, hey, they don't know how to do email, they don't know how to install an app. It's that nowadays so much of the actual computer system is hidden from you. It's more things like they don't understand complicated file structures.
Right.
Because they just have their Chromebook or whatever they had in school and all
Mm-hmm.
that just kind of has like a file section, and that's where all the files are. You don't have to worry about documents go here and downloads go here, and you installed this thing, and there needs to be something in this other folder inside of it, because technology has become much easier to use. And I wonder if that is also what's driving some of the pushes like that,
Mm.
where it's, when I was growing up, if you wanted a piece of software, first you had to go research if it existed.
Mm-hmm.
Go find what your options are. Go research your options. Go find the website offering that option, and then download it. And then if you're lucky, it had like an installation wizard,
Mm-hmm.
which was still a multi-step process. If you were unlucky, it didn't have an install wizard, and
You
it
had
had
to
instructions of
unpack
where to
things
put it.
and to put.
Yeah, exactly. You had to do a lot more. Whereas now everything's kind of like on an app store. And if everything's on an app store that just has a search function, yeah, maybe app recommendations make sense at that point. When it's more like now that I'm saying it, that sounds a lot like a supermarket.
Right.
You've walked into a place with food, and sure, you can go find the exact foods you want, or you can go look at what's on sale, or you can go look on what's in the coupon book, or any of those other things that advertise to you what's in the store. So maybe that's also some of it. Maybe the reason I don't understand these ads is because I'm just too old school with a computer. And frankly, a lot of times if there's a small application or something I want, I write it myself. I don't even
Right.
necessarily download it if it's something that I need for like analytics or anything like that.
So, not that I don't want to talk about that, but that's kind of branching off into another topic.
It is,
And
yeah.
I did want to like put in my last reason that I think this is nefarious and bad. Not that. So the first one was we paid for this operating system.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be getting ads.
Correct. Yeah.
Even if it's like, well, you got it subsidized, or you did it, or you upgraded from this, and they gave it to you as a free upgrade or whatever, I still paid that original cost.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to, you're already pulling analytics from me. You're selling that to people,
Yeah.
and I'm accepting that. Now you're going to make more profit off of me after you've already charged me money for it, or you've already done this.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of scummy, and not like returning any of that to me. The second thing is ad networks are always insecure.
Yeah.
They are untrusted. In the world that we live in today, we are talking about the world's most attacked operating system giving another vector avenue to have an ad driven, a virus or malware or something driven into it. And it's already got malware and spyware on it that is just built into it. It's just Microsoft's malware.
Yeah.
Versus everything else. So I can't see this ever being a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I was you and they start like actually advertising extra things, I would put an ad blocker on my network and put the Microsoft ad service on there.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Is like what I'm really worried will happen is they're going to put it through the same network stream as some like vital services.
Yeah, probably.
Right. So it's like I would love to just be able to have like a pie hole or something and be like, I don't get these ads anymore because I block that ad stream. But like, what if they pack it into the same place you get your Windows updates?
Kind of like Google does. Like they've put the same thing, which we're going to talk about in the next episode, how that may not be as big of a problem anymore. But there for a while, Google's search and Google's ad network were the same thing. So
Yeah.
you couldn't like separate the two out. So if you wanted Google search, you had to also, or if you're using an Android phone, you also had to have the Google ad network. There's ways to push that out, but at least Google has never been reported to give anyone a virus or malware from their advertisement stuff. They're
Yeah,
much more responsible, I guess.
sort of. Here's the thing. It's kind of like, if, like, let's say the city that we live in was like, hey, everybody, you got to have the keys to your home on file with us. So that, like, if the police needed to get into your house, they could.
Right.
That, well, I mean, same thing with these ads. Most people would say that's probably an invasion of privacy.
Right.
Some people would say, hey, that's insecure. Now there's another copy of my house somewhere. What if the wrong person gets that? And you could then make the argument, it's like, well, only the police are going to have it. So it is secured. It's less likely a criminal will get in as opposed to the police, because the police are safeguarding it. But it's still an avenue, right? So, like, when we sit down and say, like, well, Google is better about it, it's like, but it's still an avenue.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, it's more secure-ish, kind of. At least it hasn't happened yet, but it's still, like, eventually going to happen. Like, there's going to be a breach, because it's always a moving target. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like, you can, quote unquote, secure it, but it's still a vector that doesn't necessarily need to exist.
Right. If it was something where it was just like a static image or like something like that, and the problem with these ad networks is that they run code. They execute analytics code, and they run little things in the background to be able to, like, see what you're doing with your mouse, and like be able to, like, analyze your screen and stuff like that. And that ends up being a executable code that you're not saying can be executed on your device.
Yeah. I think here's something I want to see. This is Dictator Ricky taking over the world. This is what I need to see, I think, from digital. First of all, I'm going to say all products. I think when you purchase a product, you should be able to see the value that the company receives from you purchasing it.
Yeah.
So most of the time, this is going to be pretty simple, right? So it's like, you go buy a can of soda. The can of soda costs you $1. How much did Coca-Cola make? Probably like 90 cents.
Right.
And the store, got 10 cents or something like that. That actually might even be generous. I know grocery stores are on pretty low margins. But I want people to be able to see, it's like, oh, I just bought this $20 app or video game or something that has these microtransactions in it. Oh, on average, this video game company made $80. So they're extracting $60 of value out of me after I've purchased it.
Right.
Because I'd love to see on these, like, OS for ad platforms, it's like, oh, I bought, Microsoft, Windows 11 for $300, value $700. Because that gets people asking, now wait a minute, how are they getting 400 more bucks out of this?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
Yep.
That's earning them more than what I paid for the product.
And there should be a breakdown. I think legally there should be a breakdown for the shareholders. So, like, if you're going to provide it to the shareholders, then the people you're also subtracting this from should have to have that, provided to them.
Yeah. I mean, how would people think about their privacy differently if they got to see the dollar values associated with selling that private data?
Right.
How many people are going to be okay with, like, oh, I get Facebook for free, if they realize Facebook makes, $1,000 off of every single user by selling their private data?
Yeah.
Because I think people can understand that. They can understand how, oh, maybe I'm getting a little screwed here.
Well, and, like, I was talking to, my wife and my friend Natalie and like a couple other people, and they were all talking to me about how sometimes they just want to do things in my house, and when they get on my home network, they can't. And one of the biggest things is they want to be able to click that top search result that comes in Google. and they're like, it's so frustrating. I can't just click that and let that be my like thing that I do because I just want it just to be done. And I think that's the attitude that people have. They don't want to know this information. They want it to be abstracted from them. They want it to be taken away. They don't care if it costs them extra money. They don't care any of that stuff. And sometimes I don't like. I can rent or buy a carpet cleaner, right? And it probably would cost me a couple $100 to buy one, and then I could just clean the carpet in my house for the rest of my life. As long as that thing works. Maybe have to get it repaired, maybe have to replace it, but I'm probably going to get the value out of that thing with just a little bit of labor, to clean the carpet. Well, also, sometimes I'm really busy and I don't have time to do that. So I have to kind of weigh that. My cleaners who come to my house, and I know this sounds so bougie, but you got two professional people that are working, two puppies, 4 kids. Eventually, you start slacking on some things. Sometimes cleaning the house gets a little bit slacked, right? So, we hired some cleaners recently, and they came over and they did like this deep clean thing, and then we were like, we see that you do carpet cleaning. How much would it cost for you to clean the downstairs carpet where our puppies have peed?
Yeah.
And we've got a couple stains. And then when we had Cooper, he also had like some incontinence issues. And they were like, $50. And we were like, sold. Done. So like the thing I appreciated about that is that's transparent. What Google's and Microsoft and all these other places that are doing these ad things are doing is they're saying, we'll take care of that for you. Don't worry about the cost.
Yeah, exactly.
And that kind of is the problem. But people have bought into that, and they're frustrated when you take measures to keep that from happening. Because they want that convenience and they don't care about the cost.
Yeah, that's a very interesting take, especially on that Google Top link. I hate that Google Top link.
I do too.
Because it's not often actually accurate to what you want. It's the promoted link. It's the link they make money on if you click. It's not the best search result.
Oh, did you know that there is a documented thing that was done at Google to make search worse, where they return irrelevant information the first time you search for a topic?
Really?
Yes. So there was a guy, I forget the guy's name, he's on record in meetings and stuff like that talking about this. They literally have put this into their algorithm for search. And so they promote those top links. They hope you'll click on them. If you don't, they still get advertising dollars for promoting them.
Yeah.
So they want you to do it twice so they can get recurring revenue from you, at least twice, sometimes 3 times.
Really?
Yeah.
So how does that work then? It's like, okay, Joe is searching for something for the first time.
Say I'm searching for Star Wars 5e.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for content about like the history of the Old Republic or the history of the, Star Wars or something like that. That, the top things will be like some sort of advertisement for Star Wars, right? And because of that, the information that's there is going to be something like maybe miniatures or something like that, right? Well, the next content down, like say I'm looking for the history, it's going to return stuff from like video game websites and stuff like that, but stuff that's not actually relevant. It's relevant to Star Wars, but it's not relevant to the search topic that I put there.
Okay, yeah.
And then they've got a new complication with AI generated search query stuff. So we'll talk about that next episode. But this episode specifically, they've actually intentionally made search worse so that it doesn't return the exact relevant thing. Even though they know what that is, they don't want to return it until the second or third search that you do. It's like when they used to make the second or third page the actual like results for the thing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get at. When you say the second or third search, do you mean the second or third things in the list, the second or third page, or you search
you search the same topic again?
Okay, so the exact same search query, but your results are different.
Yes.
Okay, I'll have to play around with that. I have not noticed that, but I also generally don't search for the same thing like more than once in a row.
Right. So like generally the same, if you go far enough back, you'll find the content that you're looking for, but it's like it reshuffles the information.
Gotcha.
And sometimes so the algorithm's tricky. Sometimes it will return the same search results the second time. So it's like saying, well, this is actually all you're going to get. But and you have to do something like best best hat to wear for sun protection or something like that. Something that they're actually going to mark it off of.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be every search query. So some things won't work, but
yeah, if you're searching for like a very particular like research topic, something like that, it's probably not going to matter.
Right.
But okay, yeah, I'll play around with that because that'd be really interesting. Because Google has, I think we talked about it a couple episodes ago. Google search has gotten way worse.
But that's why it's gotten worse, according to the information that we've been given from insiders.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And then also it's gotten worse because of something we'll talk about next episode. Speaking of that, I'm going to get rid of our third topic. Just going to delete it. It was about M2 chips being used for AI, but whatever. That's almost a non-topic right now. But now that search sucks, who will give us the ability to search? That's what I call this, but it's specifically talking about this thing we're talking about Google search.
Yeah.
So Google search has gotten worse. Bing has never been great. You can use DuckDuckGo, and there's a couple other things that you can do for like random search. You can even roll your own search engine, right? But none of that is amazing. But our Lord Masters, our AI Lord Masters, have deemed that they will grace us with a new search engine. So OpenAI is supposed to be making their own search engine to compete with Google because it should be better. And then you know what's going to happen, right? You know who's got that stake in OpenAI, whose search engine got significantly better because they were able to integrate OpenAI's chat function and AI functions into their search engine. Microsoft and Bing. So is Bing going to be our next good search engine?
If I can be honest with you, I think pretty much all search engines have gotten worse. I don't think AI is truly helping. I mean, I think AI is doing a better job than some of the worst algorithms, but the problem is the internet is no longer the place it was when Google really took off. Back in that time, you had very authoritative information where like this is coming from, like a .org or a .edu back when those actually meant something and they weren't just an extra $1 when you bought the domain. And then you had like general people discussions, and search results very rarely return to people discussion back then. Like in 2002, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna research paper. Okay, I'm gonna search for this topic. You got a bunch of websites, often dedicated to that topic. These are like people. You want to learn about some part of history. You're getting books that are about that, research papers people have done about that, websites that are maybe specifically about
and
that
those websites
thing.
still exist, by the way.
Oh, they do. They are still there. But you didn't get results of, hey, this person on Reddit was discussing this topic and this is their opinion on it.
Right.
Wikipedia kind of started becoming a thing around that time. And like Wikipedia wasn't trusted because like anybody could write something. But now most of the time you do a search result, that's what you're getting. It's just a person has written something about it. Like I was playing around with Google does these AI suggestions now. I've seen on some of my search results. And it often is when you dig into where did it get that, it's like, oh, it was on a Reddit post, it was on Facebook, it was on Instagram, it was on, whatever. And cool. It depending on what I'm searching for, maybe that's appropriate. If I'm looking for a recipe, I don't need a Michelin star chef to be the person who wrote every recipe I use.
Right.
But if I'm searching for like how to fix something at work, we're IT people, we search solutions all the time.
Google is one of or being able to Google well is one of the things that oftentimes we're asked about, like how would you find a topic on a problem, right?
Yeah, and it's getting harder because more and more now what you're getting is, hey, somebody made this forum post. And it's them asking that question with no responses.
Right. I'll also tell you today, so I was having some back pain problems. Venus was going to make me some oatmeal. She's never made oatmeal like in a pot. She's always
Yeah.
like used instant oatmeal. Wife, fantastic cook. Not saying she's a bad cook, but she just
Yeah, not too many people make
hadn't
like a
done
steel
that.
cut anymore.
Right. But because I'm diabetic and those things come with sugar and stuff like that, I don't want that. And, so I was like, this is how you make steel cut oatmeal. And I couldn't remember the ratio of water to um, the oats,
Yeah.
right? And so I was like, this is what you need to do. And she said, okay, let's just look for the recipe. So I searched for the recipe. I got AI generated articles about how to make oatmeal, and they didn't actually give you the recipe.
Yeah.
They didn't give you the ratio. They said there is a ratio.
Yeah.
And I was like, gee, and it was like I clicked on 4 links, and then the one link that was like an actual recipe, it took like forever. It wouldn't like load.
Yeah.
And that's like a Google problem. I had to go to like Bing to find like the thing, right? Which was infuriating. But in the time that it took me to do that, which normally is like a really quick search, right? Venus was able to yell at our LadyTube thing that we have downstairs,
Yeah.
the Google LadyTube thing, and it returned a result that gave the actual ratio from the same article that I had clicked on originally. And I was like, what the actual, like, what the heck? And I've had this problem happen like multiple times. So like search is much worse right now. Super complaining, and I've had this happen at work too, like where I'm like, what's like the metrics for BGP or something like that, like looking it up to like, because I don't have that information necessarily stuffed in my head all the time. I've got other important things in there, right? And so I look it up, and it'll just say there are metrics, but not give me the specific metrics, or like give me the like, and it's all like, and like after I read through it, I'm like, oh, this is AI generated content. Like this is just somebody that just like created a bot to like go out and like scour the web, and it just created this.
Well, I was gonna say, search has been getting incrementally worse for a long time.
It has,
and it starts with this idea of creating content to get you to show up in the search, which ultimately is what destroys all of these algorithms, because things really started to fall apart when people really started understanding SEO, search engine optimization. So it's like, I'm going to make a website that maybe is not relevant to anything, but contains all of these search terms in the metadata. You originally saw that actually with malware.
Yeah.
Is people would make these websites that just had malware on them, but had, on the back end, thousands of terms to try and get you to show up in the search results. And then people started doing that for, now I'm driving more people to my blog, and the well-meaning side of, I want more visibility, but now you're making search worse. And now it's compounding on that you're getting these type of articles made by bots and AI. So they're just, again, farming this human interaction with it because there's money to be made there, while ultimately not getting anything back. It's almost parasitic, right?
Well, and some of it is bots searching for this stuff. So they're going to search, find it, create, then they have like that loop back into creating an AI topic on it, so that they can rank higher in the search results. And then that bot that they just like created the topic for, or from, the previous bot then searches their stuff and creates a derivative of that, so that they can rank higher. So it's bots searching bots. It's not actual human.
It's a self-cannibalization of information. But, I'm going to go back to, I really like that term, that we're getting very parasitic with our technology.
Right.
Like, you could say for a long time, things have been pretty symbiotic, right? Like, I may be giving something up to use this technology, but what I'm getting back is at least equal value. Not so much anymore. When we were talking about ads, and like, I don't get anything from those ads. They're stealing my data, but I get nothing out of it. I'm not even getting products I want. And now my ability to search for information is being taken away from me. What am I getting in return? Your auto-generated thing is not what I want.
Right.
So it does, to a certain level, make me wonder, like, where are we really headed with this? Because people don't tolerate a parasitic relationship.
Well, they don't tolerate forever, but right now we're in the place where the parasitic relationship still seems like it's good to
Well,
a
yeah,
lot
for
of
now,
people.
but
Like
like
with the
it's
example that I gave earlier, it's convenient, it's good, this is fine. I don't care about like all the concerns that you have.
yeah, but think about any other like symbiotic relationship we have. Like you could take a great example of like people and dogs.
Mm-hmm.
We evolved together. You know, dogs helped us perform a task. We fed and protected their children. It was great. Now, a little bit less of a symbiotic relationship, people and cats. You know, there's something there. It's not the same level as that we have with dogs, but like cats left their babies with us. They were cute. We kind of looked after them. They'd eat some mice. It wasn't as strong a relationship as we had with dogs, but it's still there. But then eventually it turns into like our relationship with pigeons. Like, you know, these pigeons were bred by us. That's not a naturally occurring bird in its current
Mm-hmm.
state. We bred them for these tasks, deliver messages, and they were great. And then we didn't need them anymore. And now people hate pigeons,
Well,
and they
not
want to eradicate them from cities and stuff.
not
And
just
like,
that, they're disease carrying, they're causing problems, they're all sorts of, you know, they bring mites with them that are bad. You know, they cause um, they're like an infestation. They're almost like rodents, like rats.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, and you know, humans dropped the ball on that just because we're kind of dropping the ball on technology. You know,
Yeah.
this is just, you know, you know, 1990s to early 2000s. I mean, technology was our dog.
Right.
Like, it was doing great, amazing things for us, and it did pretty close to exactly what we wanted. Sure, there were some better dogs than others, but you know, we were growing together. And for a while now, it's kind of been more like the cat. It's like, all right, well, you know, we're still seeing eye to eye on a couple places. It's still fun to pet you and go to TikTok and watch a video or something. But like, I think we're quickly reaching this like pigeon state
Yeah.
where the value that it was providing to us no longer outweighs the negatives of using it.
Especially when it comes to like the internet and search and like being able to like have, you know, like I mean, you're almost better going back to the days of. So you were talking about like you had to go out to a website to download stuff. When I was first using technology and computers and everything like that, we really didn't have the internet. I had to go to a store to buy a program that I then brought back, and if it worked, if I found the program that I wanted, and if it worked, that was awesome.
Yeah.
And if I wanted to find something like that was distributed by a bunch of people, I had to go to a Zine or a magazine to be able to find the thing that I wanted. And if there was a topic on it, that was great. So I had to go to a bookstore to find
Yeah.
a magazine that would, or a computer store to find a magazine that would, you know, give me what I wanted. Which that's a lot of effort to do that.
Yeah.
Search was so amazing because I could just say, "Hey, take me to this, you know, blog or take me to this BBS or something like that," and then I could get the answer that I needed. And that's really the problem now is that it went from being like if you're just looking at me, just Joe, right?
Yeah.
And Joe is the only customer that you have, which I know I'm not. So this falls apart a little bit when you start adding other people. But if Joe is the only customer that you have, you went from being useful and making my life better because I didn't have to go like do all these tasks to get one result. You gave me one task to get all the results that I needed to be able to make this thing happen. Now I have to go back to, well, I can't find it. Like everything's useless. So I guess I'm going to have to go like to the bookstore, find a recipe book, get the recipe book, search through it, see if it has a steel cut oat recipe that I like, that I might even want to attempt,
Yeah.
and then bring that home, purchase it, bring it home. So we're just going back to like 1989 at this point.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. It's like, you know, technology always advances. I don't think we're going to take a step back in that physical sense. But I think we talked about, if not personally, maybe on the podcast a while ago, that where I really see AI being useful is in those very specialized, trained in just a couple things. And I'm really wondering if the answer to be, hey, I want to know how to make steel cut oats, is not, I'm just going to Google steel cut oat recipe. Is that, oh, hey, I know a really good bot for that. And like, you're going to cookingwithai.com, and all it's trained on is thousands of cookbooks and interviews. And you say, hey, how would I make this?
While I hear that, that doesn't solve the problem of hallucination, and that's easily manipulatable to be the same problem that we have. There are already people that are talking about, I'm abandoning search and I'm going back to doing stuff at the library in a bookstore, like the bemoaning the loss of. So we as technologists, as computer scientists, as network engineers and stuff like that, we've basically created a product that no one wants to use anymore in technology, like the average person. And the people that are still using it are people that just haven't caught on that it's bad yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to see how that plays out. The problem I have is I think people have gotten used to being able to have access to so much data that the bookstore doesn't answer that problem.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But there are people that are like, I would rather just have a limited amount of information than deal with this junk.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some people, especially now, because like those trained AIs for particular tasks aren't there.
No.
Like, but I think that is ultimately when we say, where are we 5-10 years from now? I think that is the answer.
Since no one is actually trying to solve the problem of hallucinations, since no one's trying to solve that problem right now, they're actually the way they're trying to solve it is by just putting like little guards and having other AIs that look at that. They're not actually trying to make the AIs better to like stop hallucinating.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. The reason you get things like that is this kind of almost like nested loop of gathering information. And that is a problem of trying to have a generally trained AI that's using something like the internet for information, because you can't vet it. I'm saying
something more like what IBM's doing with their Watson AI, where it's like only trained off of a very specific set of data.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm saying someone goes through and says, okay, I have bought 10,000 reviewed and good cookbooks, and I'm going to train you on those, and then I'm going to go hire a couple chefs to talk with you and help train you.
So I've got an idea. We could actually simulate this in a way, because you can get local language models for your. Do you want to just download one?
And yeah, we could always play with it,
and just like get a couple of books and like feed it into that and be like, this is all you know.
Yeah, I mean that in all honesty, before ChatGPT came out, was how people were training AI.
Yeah,
like it's not even that big of a step back. And I mean, if you go into any academic setting, any of these, like the true experts in AI, like when you talk about, again, not necessarily companies making a product, but the people that have been sitting at universities trying to make AI a thing for decades, all of them, I mean, I shouldn't say all of them, that's definitive. The majority of them are going to tell you this giant language model stuff just doesn't have legs. It's too difficult to train. It's too difficult to contain. It's too difficult to be actually useful. All of the really big, like, academic focus is on hyper specialization, because that's where the value is. Because when you have a bot that all it knows is the thing you're trying to talk to it about, you now get back into that, okay, I wanted to know how to cook something, so I went to a cooking store and talked to the person who works there. Right? Like, I didn't go walk into the middle of the street and ask everybody that walked by me what they think about wine. I went to a wine store and I talked to their sommelier.
Yeah.
I went and talked to an expert, because that's what they know. And I think that's ultimately where we're going to land in solving this problem.
I'm sorry, I was just sighing.
No, it's interesting. But, then you run into, now that I'm talking through it, I think that's a good answer. But knowing how people are with the internet, you'll have 800 different cooking bots, and some will be good and some won't. And you
won't know which one's good.
How to find the good ones.
That's exactly where I was. That's why I was like,
Like it'll solve the problem, but it gets you eventually
Back to the same spot that we're at right now.
What really kills us is, again, people are trying to.
It's the profit aspect of it.
Yeah, it's the extraction of value.
Yeah, and value monetarily, not value like in intrinsic value or value like for the good of man or something like that.
Yeah, there's monetization of everything, and that drives behaviors to be as worse as you can be, but still make money.
I realize what I just said might have been deemed a little bit sexist for anybody out there. I meant like mankind, and I know that mankind has like some connotations there, but just all peoples.
Yeah. It's the monetization of consumption of information.
Yeah.
But like again, I mean, AI librarian. Like you've got a library. It's full of thousands of books. Every one of those books has been converted to a PDF and read through into this bot.
Or an EPUB, which would be better.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Some format the language model can read. It's in a document, a text, or whatever. And that librarian knows every single book in the library and exactly what it is. And then you go and ask, hey, I want a story about this. And then, I mean, just think about library search. Like, I go to the public library, I search for a book. I tried to find the Dragonlance series. I wanted to see if Dragonlance was in our local library. And it was very hard to even find, like, which books are actually, like, just even have dragons in them. Like, okay, you don't have Dragonlance, you have something in this fantasy thing. It was hard to find because you're just searching off of search terms and titles. If you don't know the title, if you don't know the author, that's rough. Little AI librarian knows every book.
Yep.
It's like, oh, you want a list of books with dragons in it? Here you go.
Okay, but here's the problem that I see with that. The AI librarian knows every book. Someone tries to get them to tell them a story based off of like a certain topic, because that's the next iteration of that, right? So your AI librarian goes from this is just a thing that already exists that humans made to I am creating something.
No, see, but that's my line in the sand. That's when you're starting to get into monetization. Why does that bot have to make a story? It has to make a story because you want to take that story and sell it.
Yes, exactly.
What I'm saying is where it needs to stay is here is a little bot on every computer in the library that you can say, hey, instead of me typing, what are Mark Wise, Tracy Hickman,
Margaret Wise, Tracy Hickman, Dragonlance, and finding them.
Yeah, I want to say, hey, I want a fantasy book written in the 80s that has dragons in it.
Yeah.
And it can, having read all the books, say, okay,
just
here you
return
go.
Aragon, Dragonlance, all that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that's the problem, is that there is so much value in that first iteration of the bot for the consumer. And
but
then
none for the developer. Really is the way that the developer looks at it. You're not going to pay me money to do that, or you're not going to subscribe to me to do that. Well,
here's the thing. You're not going to have a continuous subscription model for something like that. Now, absolutely, I bet a library would pay for that.
Yeah, of course. That's not really the way they're trying to extract value.
Yeah, exactly.
Out of it,
I'm not going to make money off of this every single day for the rest of my life. I'm not going to have a button I can push that I hope writes me a new bestseller. And that's the issue, is there's too much of this. How can this become the next big thing that makes me $1 million?
Or makes me billions of dollars. It's not $1 million, because $1 million is not enough anymore.
Yeah.
You would have to have, for one person, tens of millions of dollars to live the rest of their life.
Oh, well, yeah. But I was saying the thing, like, it doesn't take an incredibly long time to train a very specific AI model.
Yeah.
Now, it takes a ton of time to make it like a ChatGPT.
Right.
These big large language models. But if you're like, hey, you're going to be my enhanced search, and I'm going to run all of my documentation through you, it's a pretty basic, good search engine very quickly. And you can get it to the point it can talk and like have a slight conversation with you in just a matter of months. Like, if you did 3 months of work, sorry, you're probably not going to, you shouldn't be aiming to make enough money to retire.
Right.
Off of 3 months.
But that's exactly the way that people
that's
are
what
thinking.
People are doing. Yeah. And I think that's that line of like, are we going to spend our time trying to make new dogs, or are we going to make pigeons?
So but the question is, does that mean that people that have ethics like we do need to be doing this? Or is it that people that are like Sam Altman, who are brilliant, but they don't have those sort of ethics, need to be doing this. And I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't stop people from doing it one way or the other. It's like you and me could sit down, train whatever AI we want to. It'll be great for our use case. But we can't stop the other people from doing it who are going to try and do it to make a ton of money.
Right, but what I'm saying is that is it, if we're asking that question, not about the money, not about anything else, ethically, like from an ethics standpoint, who is the person that should be doing this? Because this is like an ethical conundrum at this point. Because it's the choice is, does it serve the better of everything, like humanity, animals, all this stuff, or does it serve profit?
I think I don't know. I have a hard time drawing that line because it's creation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could easily flip that over. Like, let's reframe it,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is now the printing press.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you can make a lot of books really fast, which means you can put lots of information into the world really fast. And, should you be allowed to print anything you want?
Mm-hmm.
Should you be allowed to say, if you write an article that's negative to the king, should you be allowed to do that? That would get a lot of the peasantry mad at the king. That's dangerous for society. That's dangerous for mankind. That's the problem. I mean, you're 100% right in that people are going to use AI to do things nefarious.
Mm-hmm.
That's human nature. There will always be people looking to exploit others. But at the same time, these AI things are still creations, expressions of creativity. Everybody should be allowed to interact with them. They should be allowed to make their own if they want to make their own, until it crosses those lines into something that it can only be nefarious.
I think the example that you gave of the printing press is a little off, though, because it would be more like, do we create a printing press that anyone can create a thing and they can print their own book and they can disseminate information, and whatever the consequences of that are, whether it's good or bad, are things that kind of go out into the world and we deal with it? Or do we have printing presses set up in such a way that you can send your information to the printing press, it can be printed for you, but you never make any profit off of it, and anything that's ever sold from your printing press goes to this like group of people over here, and that's more the example that I'm talking about. Is it more the ability to get to the state that you went to in the second in your example, like where we're debating whether or not the information that's good that's been sent out, or are all the printing presses controlled by a group of people who make just all the profit and knowledge off of it?
I mean, yeah, I can see that argument, but I'd also say that's also not where we are with AI.
But that's kind of what's happening, though. Like, okay, so my wife is not going to go out and make her own AI chatbot. Your wife's not going to, right? Our executives at work are not going to go out and make their own AI or have their own special specific work related AI chatbot that they made, that they researched, that they did. They're going to pull from, they're already doing it. They're going to pull from this one that already exists.
Yeah.
And then just kind of train it to do the thing that they kind of want to, but they're not going to worry about the hallucination. It'll get 90% there. If it returns a little bit of bad information, it's not a big deal. But they're paying this group of people over here to create it for them. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but that's just their choice not to engage. Like, again, we take the Stable Diffusion we played with. I made my own Stable Diffusion model.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was technical. It was just like in the printing press thing, to assemble a printing press, technical.
Yep.
At that time period, knowing how to write at all, technical.
Yep.
Not everyone knew how to do it. But if you spent the time to learn how to do it, you could do it. And that's kind of what I'm getting. We're seeing a lot of people pump a lot of money into AI because they want to make money out of it.
Right.
Right? And like to a certain extent, no, you and me probably could not make the next ChatGPT because we don't have the hundreds of engineers to help us do it.
We also don't have the hardware backbone to do that.
Yeah, we
You
don't
would
have the money
have
to
a
buy the
data
equipment
center
and stuff.
worth of equipment.
Yeah, but if we wanted to go make a little AI just for fun to play D&D with us or something like that, we could.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's kind of where I'm getting. You're always going to see throughout all of human history, the people with the money and the resources can do something faster and larger than the people that don't.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree with that. I'm not. It's not that I disagree with that. It's that right now we're in a place where, like, we had kings and people like that that'd be like, no, this is not something that one group of people can control, right? They would like fight amongst themselves and like split it off and like do. Now we have corporations that are just kind of conglomerizing this stuff into like one place, and they're like, oh well, if we all agree to like let this all be in one place, we can all make a ton of profit off of it, and we can use it.
Well, that's a problem with our government because they are supposed to be stopping that stuff from happening, and they're not.
It's a problem with our government, and it's a problem with the world because it's not just happening in the U.S.
Yeah, and when I mean like our world governments
Okay.
are not doing the things they need to. And some places are better than others, but you're right. To that extent, we are allowing essentially resources to get too compacted into just a couple areas. I think the worst thing that we all just kind of accepted was during a lot of the like financial turmoil of the early 2000s, this idea that like something's too big to fail.
Right.
And they kind of split that off as like, well, yeah, can you imagine what would happen if we let X fail? It'd be terrible for everybody. And that is true. If some incredibly large institutions were to suddenly overnight disappear, that would be truly impactful and awful. But the answer to that should not have been, therefore, us as the government, we are going to step in and make sure they don't fail. It's that why has this not been broken up so that any individual piece could fail and it would be all right?
Right.
The idea that something was too big to fail is a mark of how poorly things are being managed.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like if you owned a car and any one piece in that car could break and then the car was forever broken and could never be repaired. That'd be a huge problem.
It would be.
Customers would realize that and say, now wait a minute, how come my spark plug went out and now I have to throw the whole car out? How come that can't be replaced? Or like, why is my engine one solid piece that can't be repaired instead of a bunch of small pieces that can? But now we're probably getting pretty far off topic. But
we are.
That's what I would say to that.
Yeah.
Is the issue is the consolidation of power more than it is.
But that is actually what I'm talking about, the consolidation of that into one thing. Like if people like us, which we can't because we have other things, we have other problems we're trying to solve. But because this is so popular right now and everyone's trying to use it, and we'll talk about it in another podcast because we've got to finish this one.
Yeah.
But just to finish that up, if everyone's trying to use it and they're actually making it worse, not better.
Yeah.
It's like pollution or anything else like that. Because everyone started throwing their trash on the side of the road and no one was cleaning it up, we started having junky roads for a while there. Stuff like that. All right. So not that I don't want you to talk any more about this, but do you have anything else that you want to say?
No, I'm sure we've gone over.
We are an hour and a half into this. And we have 30 minutes to record the other podcast. So this has been Season 7, Episode 9 of the Beer and Broadband Podcast. It's supposed to come out on May 27th, 2024. That's also going to be Memorial Day in the U.S., so happy Memorial Day. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.